What do you mean?
Hello.
Hi. Today we have Thomas Heide.
Nice.
Heide.
Heide. We are going to discuss creative chaos. And what we mean by that, just to give you a preemptive strike about what we're discussing, is this fine line between structure and fluidity. And how do we deal with the fact that we like to think that everything has a structure, but if we were honest with ourselves, it's changing the moment we look at it. And where are we doing all of this and tons more? Mr. Bambos Charles Dimitriou?
On a wonderful chaos, Mr. Shayla.
Yes, we are. So, Bambos, after yesterday's episode, I got some nice comments that I didn't expect.
We had a lot of people watching with us.
Yeah. We walked. For those that aren't aware, we went to the cemetery. We did our first off-site show at a cemetery, and we talked about death. Yeah. And I think for both of us, it was since we were out of the studio, it didn't feel so comfortable because we were navigating a camera and a microphone. But in a way, it's I think that it was a different. We were almost reflecting together instead of having a dialogue like we do on the sofa.
Yeah, actually, it was nice because you would pass me the mic when you were done. Then I'd talk, then I'd pass it back to you. And here we're just sharing the mic.
Yeah, and so it felt a little bit different in a way there, and I didn't quite know how other people perceived it, but clearly.
Did you rewatch it?
I watched part of it. I liked it. What I like about being together with you here is that it's more fluid. You know, we're not looking at a tombstone and then bending over and discussing. It's but I can see us doing things like that more often.
And we will definitely.
Yeah.
Before we start the show, like in general, I've had a really rough day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I've been working on cultivating happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, like, I was at home at 4:00 and I was watching the time ticking. I was like, oh God, shall I just cancel?
Call in sick?
Call in sick. Like, in a way, I've always showed up.
Uh-huh.
And to not show up when I'm feeling also really as vulnerable as I am right now, it feels quite tender actually, would be me needing to be fixed before coming on a show actually.
Yeah.
So I actually came here running just to get the blood flowing.
Wow.
But working on happiness, how I've been doing that, I've been, every time my brain turns to heaviness, sitting down and writing 3 things. So it's a practice.
Yeah.
3 specific things that I'm grateful for. And I also see that giving makes me happy. It's also, and even the journey of figuring what I can give to others is also something which brings energy. But today I do feel really depleted and defeated. So even when I came in and you joked about this not being an emotional show,
yeah,
like I know that the pattern would be, if I don't say anything, then kind of what you said is gonna
constrict you.
Yeah, and I don't want to do that. So by speaking right now, I'm also taking space and making sure that I'm fully present in the show.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
it's I love, like I think we always talked about, you get to be whoever you are in this moment, but you have to be it. Yeah. So that's really beautiful. And we know Thomas is going to be very emotional. He only writes emotional books about tears. And no, Thomas Heide, he is clearly a philosopher. It's even in the title of his name. He says, if you say what he is, it says philosopher. That's the first thing you read. And I had I had a funny interaction with him because I didn't know much. We met him through Peter Koenig, our mutual friend, who we love and adore.
Yeah.
And so Thomas wrote this beautiful post, which was what he spends a lot of his time with, which I mentioned early, this sort of tension between structure and fluidity. like that everything is fluid, and yet we give it a structure. And in fact, even as I speak, I already see he's going to see all the inconsistencies in what I'm saying. So I'm summarizing it as simply as I can so he can correct it later.
Expand on it.
But what I'm saying is that if we create structure for our sanity, and yet it's fluid. So how do you address the contradiction? That it is fluid, our brains won't allow us to accept the fluidity, so we need to create the structure. And how do those two things interplay and live next to one another? And I found ways that I've addressed it.
Paradox theory.
Paradox is one of them, but one of the things is the idea of truth, because truth also, you could say, there's ideas where you say truth is fluid and structured. And so how does truth play into that? And that's when I made a dumb comment to Thomas, just saying, I used this individual who I've mentioned to you before, Karl Popper, because it's helped me realize that truth in Karl Popper's definition was just a statement within a context. So what he said was there's no truth, but what we can do is make a statement and we can decide the context where that statement is true. But that context can always shift. So what we're saying is we accept that this is what we take as truth based on the context that we've created.
Yeah.
A lot of headiness. Thomas has many more distinctions, I'm sure. But I just solved it. So I wrote this to Thomas, and then he wrote back like, oh, I'm not sure about this. And then get this, I think it was maybe 3 days later, he replies to this message that now he's thought about. And he said, if this is what you meant, I agree with you.
But he didn't send you like
no. It was the sweetest message. It was like I felt half guilty because now I've put something in his head, and I'm like, damn it, I've given so much. I've given what I consider less thought than he's given to this subject. So why am I meddling? I should be asking him questions.
Nice.
So that was a bit of the funny interaction we had before the show. And I think with that, it would be great to invite him on and just start to interact. He's also, not that you don't need accolades, but you've written 8 books, and I know you're not going to, stand and be excited about the world knowing this, but yes, you've written 8 books, but you've created Kaospilots, which those watching who don't know what Kaospilots is, it's a really exciting, interesting, innovative way that I've seen of businesses going through creative processes within their ranks.
Give me a second.
Yeah.
We're told that our sound is not so good.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
What's wrong?
Bolalang
is telling us let me make sure. Can you hear us so fine, Thomas?
Super fine.
Okay,
perfect.
Great. So our main listener, probably the man who is going to ask you more questions than Bambos and I, is telling us that the sound isn't good. So Bolalang, I think that you might have to turn the volume up at home. But we'll see. Hopefully we get through it. So you really have created something remarkable in the world that we don't. I don't want to skip over that, because 30 years ago, the idea of going into a business and giving a completely innovative way for them to rethink how they do business is something that you actually created with your co-founder 30 years ago. And today it's pretty much, there's several people I know who are practitioners of what you created then. And I just, congratulations on that. It's really incredible. Yeah.
It is
Great.
really incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Especially because I did actually, when you look upon it over time, it's like 30 years have passed. So the amount of work that I put into it, it was important because it wasn't the beginning, but the whole thing unfolded, without my help. So it's just to make clear that it's a long time ago I was a part of it. But I think one of the really interesting thing about how the Kaospilots came to be, okay, if I can go there.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, was that the other co-founder Uffe and I are 2 different personalities.
Oh yeah.
And I proposed to him. We were in a situation where we had received funding from the government to all our other projects, and so we had to evaluate this. But we had spent all the money, so there were no money for evaluation. So we spent all the money on the fun parts, and so we thought what to do, and so we decided, let's make a project that shows what we have done. Okay. And so we talked about that. And then one afternoon, I said to Uffe, I thought about this, maybe we should do an education that's based upon our merits and what we've done. And I said to Uffe, let's make a project management education for young people who have no education, okay, who have done it themselves. And the moment I said that, the universe shifted, okay? So it was just like, it became real. At that very moment, a long time before what we know today, the universe just settled in and said, okay, this is how it's going to be, okay? And then the fun thing is that a couple of weeks later, the other co-founder said, let's call it Kaospilot. And so for the second time, the universe clicked, okay? So what we learned, or what I learned from that, was that, you know, the future was already there.
Yeah.
Everything that happened was already present. And it was a powerful experience, very powerful experience.
I think that's something we spend a lot of time discussing this exact subject on the show. Is that
different words?
Yeah, always different words.
Please.
But the thing is that everyone wants to take control of their lives, and it's almost like you wait around for the penny to drop. But most people aren't patient enough for the penny to drop, so they're forcing the actual I got to control my future. I got to control my future. And what I've known in my life is that there has been more of a serendipity nature to it than a planned nature, at least for me. And I've seen that afterwards, I rewrite the story as if it was planned, because of course that's how, when you look in reverse, you can write the narrative the way you want to. But in actuality, you know, things were very like, I met this person who'd introduced me to that person. And then all of a sudden I was taking a shower and this word hit me in the head. And I'm like, wow, that's what we're going to do. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. What's happening for you?
Yeah, I love
Thomas?
your eyes. What's going on in your head, Thomas?
I'm just thinking if we are talking about the exact same thing here, you know, I'm just like, I'm not, maybe serendipity, what does that mean?
Serendipity would mean, so you're in a meeting where you're with your friend, Uta, and things are happening, but a word comes out of your mouth. And at that very moment, there's a click that there's something going on that you already know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like it's a vibration. It's like,
at that point, I didn't know that. We didn't know it would happen, but it was just so powerful, you know, that like this. Yeah. But is that what we're talking about?
That's all we're talking about. That's all we're talking about.
Okay. Yeah. This feeling that what just happened there, that you speak a word and suddenly everything, you know, is vibrating and changing and shifting, and you don't know exactly what the consequence will be, you know, at that point, but you just know, and a part of you, a part of me at least, wants to take it back. Yeah. Because it's too powerful.
Yes.
It's too much. There's no real contact between the spoken word and what is happening in the universe now.
Yeah.
Wow. You're very passionate, Thomas. Right?
Yeah, I'm loving it.
Like we talked about that you have a high intelligence, but as you're speaking, it's a very embodied way of communicating.
Okay, great.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I'm passionate about this.
Yeah, nice. He was expecting for you to give us scientific theories about joy and happiness. The fact you've shown up as a human is confusing us right now. Really confusing.
No, but I was. You said that bamboos. You said you had been feeling tender, and you know you talked about your afternoon and and I thought, whoa, okay, Thomas, of course you're an adult, so I don't have to take care of you in that sense, but there is a part of me that will roll like a truck, okay, and will just forget everybody, you know. And I will become a technician, you know, working and that's I think that's something in my life that I need to be, you know, a little bit careful about, because most people actually don't enjoy that so much, you know, being told how the machinery works. That's not what we want from other people.
Well, so let's just agree that you can be yourself, and we'll bring you back if it's
if I'm
almost Andy, can you translate for me? What did he just say?
No.
But I mean, going back to what you just said, by the way, I'd love to stay there for one moment, because I've often laughed, because Bambos, you know, I've often told Bambos, you know, I'll sit around for 2 years and I will be doing things, but when that penny drops, it's like it takes me over. I'm scared of it. So even when I, you know, the first book, it did well, And I was telling Bambos, and I said often, I almost didn't want it to do well, because in not doing well, then I could just go back to my cave and say, hey, goodbye. It was nice knowing. But when it went well, I was like, oh no, now there's something. And then the next thing I know, I'm on the road for 3 months in America doing a tour, right? Which was not planned. But that's speaking to you, is that when that thing vibrates, you don't decide anymore. It sort of, you just follow that energy and it guides you.
Yeah, it's out of your hands, basically. It's out of your hands.
So Thomas, I've got 2 words for you: fluidity and the thing that we call structure. Like, how help me understand in like to a 5-year-old.
Yeah, if you use the word stasis, you have to translate it into a more basic word.
Yeah, I think I actually prefer fluidity and solidity.
Okay,
great. So, because it's this beautiful pair of words, you know. So you have fluidity, which actually is the change aspect of reality, which is, if you think about change, when I think about change, I define it as something that it's always absent. So that which is changing is not really there. Okay, so the world that I'm living in, according to this principle, it's not there. It can't. There's a contradiction within the property of change that simply says, in order for something to change, it has to be absent. If you define something as changing, it's actually absent. So I'm not here, you are not there. So what's happening? Why does it appear as if we are here? Okay, so that's the question. How come I experience reality as solid when I simultaneously experience it as fluid? And I know that the consequence of fluidity is absence. But yet, my computer is here, my hand is here, my body is here, you are there as if you were solid. So this is a problem. Yeah, that's right. It seems like it's there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've dealt with your issue. I say what you say. I say what you say in my own words is, why are you taking this shit so seriously? It's all a construct in your head, which you've projected and created a reality from. So now all of a sudden the reality you create defines how you experience the world. So in a weird way, you've made the science out of what I try to reduce down to stupid sentences to soften my tension in my head, you know?
But, and this and this may be where I'm alone in the world, because I'm just jumping to this conclusion that I'm thinking, if we are trying to solve our problems without taking this into account, then we get bad results. And
slow down.
Okay.
All I can say is hallelujah. Because this is what I'm because I love we're connecting and using our lingo, is that I'm always saying it's no different than Einstein. A problem can't be solved in the paradigm in which it's been created.
Exactly.
So when basically we go and say, I'm trying to solve this problem with all of the structure that I've created till this point, then what I'm saying is all the limitations that I bring to this moment in my life are defining how I deal with the thing that I can't deal with. And exactly that is actually the challenge, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Yeah. But you created so you were aware of this 30 years ago.
Can you slow down a little bit? Because for me, I'm trying to keep up here.
Yeah, good.
Like when you were talking before Andy was translating or connecting to what you were saying, I saw that you laughed, and that laughter came from a place of like I projected almost insanity and at the same time surrender.
Yeah.
Like it feels like you're touching that borderline of I can grasp it, and actually I don't know anything.
Yeah. So the problem is, of course, what just was said, that the way I've been groomed, the way my culture grooms me, the way I was brought up, the whole thing is built on the anticipation of reality as something that can be mathematically deconstructed. Okay, we can measure it. We can finalize our measurements. You know, we can explain everything in detail with numbers and language. But the problem is that the assumption behind this is an assumption about reality as if reality is that. And the problem is, right here in my body, right here where I am, this is not my experience. So how the fuck come that we ended up in this situation? Because the experience I'm having is completely different. It's an experience of fluidity and change. And it does not correspond with the world picture that I was presented with and that I'm living in. So that's why I'm interested in the thing.
How old were you? How old were you the first time you did acid, Thomas?
I was maybe 17.
17. Yeah.
Was that a wild guess?
I have no idea, but I know from speaking to you, there was a moment in life when you said, I'm going to allow my brain to float in whatever dimension that exists and give myself an experience of an alternate reality.
Yeah. So that's true also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're talking about the Matrix, right?
Yeah. I think it's actually more important than that, if I may. I think the Matrix is a movie, and it's an idea, of course, and it's beautiful, and it was great to see it the first time. But this is way more. It's what creates our lives and defines the way we think about ourselves and other people, and the future, as you said, the way we solve problems. So
I think of the word oblivion. When he said Matrix, I think of oblivion. And
I'm sorry, oblivion means
no. Like you're taking it to a level. So if I had to put it like rank order, if Bambo says Matrix, what we're still presupposing is that there's a way in which we as a group see the world and its experience. When I say oblivion, where I'm saying it goes to the level, it's like you're saying, actually, I can take my brain all out of this to the point where I'm no longer even in the identity of existence is gone. And now I'm just looking like, wow, I can't even imagine how I'm taking not only this world seriously, but how I'm seeing this world. It's like I've got 5 senses, apparently, but I don't even know how I'm processing this. This is wild. Like, when this planet ends and it disappears, there's no trace that it ever existed. It's gone, right? Maybe there's something that's left out in this space of junk we left behind. But other than that, it's all gone. By the way, let's ask your daughter, son, who's back there. Do you need anything?
I don't know. I just have to check in with him.
Please check in. I see him back there. Let's see if he's got something important to do. Let's ask. It's great.
Okay, right.
I love it.
Just one moment. Okay, great.
Yeah, we were at the. You watched us sorry, I don't know if we're jumping too far and too many.
So fine, no problem. No, I don't know.
You watched our show yesterday at the cemetery. As you watched us kind of talk through it, are there things that came up for you that you thought, oh, these guys are missing the point here, or anything that you noticed or found interesting, or anything?
I think I came in sort of at the end of the show. And you were like sort of struggling with the concept, and there was something, the microphone was disturbing, and the thing with the cord and the camera, and there was a lot of technical issues.
We need a roadie.
and yeah, so death. No, I don't know. No, so I came in at the end of the show.
Got it.
So
no worries.
And there was some debate about some comments also, and so no, I didn't. Okay.
The reason why I ask is because Bambos looked at me while you were speaking to your son, and he said he wanted to ask you, "Is there a God?"
Embedded in there's obviously a God. In the sense that it's like you have to imagine there's do you know the periodical system? Mm-hmm. There's like these what do you call them, elements, the basic elements.
The basic elements, yeah.
So normally we think about uranium or titanium or whatever. Yeah. So in my system there are only 2 properties, which is the fluidity and solidity, which is it's below, it's metaphysical. It's called metaphysics. It's the teaching about the being in itself. So that's like carrying the whole periodical system. So the beauty of understanding reality as a function of fluidity and solidity is that any reality that you project into this probability field is real in a sense. So to the person who believes in a God, that God is. But unfortunately, of course, they will get mad with me because I will always say it's secondary to the periodical system. Okay, God is secondary to the function of fluidity and solidity. But I will not deny your God. But I will claim always that your experience of reality can be reduced to fluidity and solidity and to relationship between these two, a mixture of these two.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I always laugh. The joke is if anyone says to me and asks the question, do you believe? I always say no before they finish the sentence. Because if I'm forced to state a belief, then I'm stuck in that. So I'll say, no. Yeah.
Yeah.
This interesting dichotomy that I often see, and I wonder if it's connected to this, is that I often experience this sort of separation between the seeing and the being. I can see and be, and sometimes I can get stuck in the being without actually seeing. And by seeing, I'm observing the actor, as opposed to just being the thing. And it sounds like this is a limited structure compared to your solidity, fluidity, and structure. Would that be?
No, because I think that's just you being evolved way beyond me, because I'm always in the being. Okay. So,
but that's not true, because you were also seeing yourself interacting earlier with Bambos, and you couldn't have had that interaction. Say, I observed that I changed for you since you presented. So that is obviously a seer.
I get you. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Sorry, we can move back to your.
That's fine. No, but it's true. Of course, there's a meta position. That's what you're talking about. There's a meta position that is observing also, but in my the way I understand reality in the intellectual level, of course, is that all this belongs. It's all fluctuating all the time, so it all belongs to this as I call it, the probability field of everyday life. So this is where I'm. It's like I thought I would use this example. Okay, I would say, imagine. I don't know if you know Niels Bohr, the Danish guy who invented the baseline for atomic physics.
No.
Oh yeah, I know that guy.
He's like the founder of quantum mechanics. Or he was the first guy who's saw the dynamics in the microscopic world. And how it had to be. And then Heisenberg and Dirac and all the other guys, about Schrödinger and his cat and all these guys came afterwards and systemized the idea. But I often think, so what would have happened if we had placed Niels Bohr instead of Newton? Now imagine that these guys, Niels Bohr or maybe, do you know Heisenberg? You heard about Heisenberg?
I've heard the name.
The guy who invented quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
Now imagine one of these guys instead of Newton. So we go 300 years back, and they have no measurement systems, and they have to describe reality as a quantum mechanical field or quantum mechanical dynamic. Imagine this was our inheritance instead of, deterministic effects all the time, like Newton's idea, that everything, you push something and then it will, and energy and all this. So instead you had a probability field. They would say we would have been brought up with the idea that reality is just probabilities, and that we need to understand everything as shifting probabilities, and we need to interact with reality and the universe and ourselves and each other, in the meta position when we are being as probabilities always. So imagine that in kindergarten. How would it look?
In kindergarten. I don't know. Have you ever seen the books of quantum mechanics for kindergartners? There's books like this, by the way. They exist.
Great. Of course they do. But the problem is, even those books come from a worldview of structure.
Sure.
This is the whole idea about quantum mechanics, is that it's actually emphasizing, the power of determinism on the everyday experiential level. So this is quantum mechanics today. It is not a dynamic probability field of everyday life. It's the opposite. It's a weight that holds down the world as we know it. So just to say that. So anyway,
you know what I love is that the world that you're proposing, it requires so much capacity from the individual that it blows my mind that you could have even created a curriculum that would even support anything in this direction.
So, but the beautiful thing is you are doing it already. That's the incredible thing. You are doing it right now. We are doing it. We are transforming fluidity into solidity. We are using the probability field to co-create reality. Yeah. It's an inert knowledge we already have, but it's just marginalized completely because it doesn't support predictability, survivability, instinctive behavior, etc., etc. Yeah. So of course it's incredibly difficult to imagine an educational system that can promote this and actually make it work. Okay, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. I know. I mean, that's the whole thing, is that it's sort of weird because go ahead, show us your diagram. You've got an equal sign and an equal crossing through it. And what's I say this unequal for the podcast viewers so they know what we're talking about.
Equal.
Yeah.
Unequal. Equal. So.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? When you have these discussions with your children, what happens to their faces?
I knew it.
This was for bamboos. This was you in the beginning of the show. You were like this. Yeah. And I thought, how can we make you like this so you don't leave the show? Stay. So anyway, I don't talk. My children, they just I don't know.
I think Dad, I want to use you as a case study.
Do they think Dad's crazy? Do they think Dad's crazy or not?
No, they're too young.
No, they might say, Dad, like you talk about weird things. Like
I think I'm going out on a limb here. Okay. But my son is 12. Okay. I think he thinks I'm pretty cool, actually.
Oh, that's great. I love it.
I'm not exactly like the other dads in the class, Yeah. But but I'm not completely lost, So there's something about me that's okay as a dad also.
I love that.
Thomas, what does if your wife was here, what would she say about you? How would she describe you?
I'm separated from my wife.
I was going to say, my first question was, is it the ex? You asked, you went for the wife. I'm like, hold on. Let me preface this. What would your ex-wife or your
she would say he spends the money the children should have in the future on creating weird objects and printing books that are of no importance really compared to the future of the children.
Oh, wow. I'd love for my wife and your ex-wife or potential ex-wife to meet, because I've spoken to her and we've agreed that if we had kids, that our relationship would be a bit more stressed out, because I live for the passion of today. I'm not fearful of tomorrow. So I can certainly relate with that sentiment. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't it beautiful though? Because in your way, what I hear in that is that you have a passion for life.
Yeah.
And if you were with somebody that sort of matched that passion, you would actually have a great synergy. But I imagine
but then there would have been probably no money.
Yeah.
So my wife was the wife that I'm separated from she's very good at, getting the money.
Like I said,
very important, yeah.
Like I said, my wife and your wife need to talk, because they would.
Ex-wife.
No, she's not my ex-wife. We don't have kids. If we had kids, we'd be close. But I mean, but no, it's very much similar. My wife has the money. She has the control. So when I go off and do my little book, she said, you got to stop your hobbying. Like I like you. I like that you write those books. It's really sweet, but can you write it and make it so that it doesn't cost any money next time?
Or when will you start bringing money in?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, and it's also, it is actually important, So it's a part of it, So anyway,
But what's crazy is that you created this Kaospilots. Yeah. Obviously, this Kaospilots is taking over the world. You can go anywhere, I'm sure, on the planet today and find people, practitioners of it. Are you? I mean, maybe it's a sensitive question, and I've never usually gone there. But are you benefiting from this Kaospilots that as it continues to grow throughout the world?
No.
Oh, okay. Well,
but in a way, in a reverse kind of way, because when I separated myself from the Kaospilots a long time ago, and because I thought when we created the school, we were like this movement of young entrepreneurs and unemployed people and people making art and dancing and theater, all Amsterdam, just like Amsterdam.
I know it.
Are you in Amsterdam?
Yeah, we're in Amsterdam. Yeah.
Or like San Francisco. But in the late 80s, early 90s, and so we wanted to transform our experience into this, institutionalize our experiences into an education. But what became clear pretty quickly, and we had a parameter or criterion for doing this, was that the paper we wrote, or the project description that we wrote, should be able to bring in someone from outside, and they should read the book or read the project description, and they should be able to take over. This is institutionalization.
Wow. Yeah,
so
of course.
In order to institutionalize, you need to have a set of methods and a curriculum. You can pass it on, and you can scale it, basically.
Yeah.
Structure.
Yeah, structure, exactly. So we understood that in order to institutionalize this, we should be able to bring someone from the outside in. But quickly it became apparent, of course, that the people were too important. You can't institutionalize the dynamic and the energy of the people. It can't be done.
No.
And so my co-founder Uffe, he eventually became the principal of the school. And was able to lift it because of his persona.
Yeah.
Not because of the project description we wrote.
Yeah.
With his energy, and his
passion.
Gung-ho, what you call
gung-ho attitude. I know it.
Yeah, exactly. So he basically awoke it into the monster into life, with his bare hands.
Yeah. I know what you're talking. That persona is so important, and it's so like I always laugh because the best of anything often doesn't succeed. It's the one where there's a glamorized individual who gets there's attraction to that person, and then
and the person who is willing to to actually basically to give up everything to make it happen. So in that sense, it's his what do you call it? I don't know the English word, but his doing.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
That I today can say I was a part of something that became really big was because of the work he put in, and also, of course, later on other people.
It would be kind of like Gates, or that was it Jobs and what's the name of the
Wozniak.
In Wozniak, you're like the Woz of the Kaospilots.
I don't know that, but now let's get back to
not go there.
No. So what's interesting about my personal story and about what did you get from the Kaospilot? Of course, I can always own it. I can always bring it back into my life if I want to. But what I started thinking about was if we were to make a school, that had that if we really were to make a curriculum, a description of a school that could be scalable, that would match the world as is, how would it look? So this is what I've been working on all the time. It's the new software, So this is what I've been doing. This is, but some is in English, some is not, but basically this is what I've tried to do. And so it comes down to the question, how come I experience fluidity as solidity?
Mm-hmm.
And so in all statements I make, I must also answer this question in order for this statement to be a true statement. So I created this system, of course. So this is what I've been doing.
He just took
Beautiful.
my brain and turned it upside down.
I know I hate asking questions like this, but I ask anyways. Do you know of the TED speaker Sugata Mitra?
No.
Okay, Sugata Mitra did a TED video. He basically put a computer in a wall in a slum in India, and he said, "Kids, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to give you access to a computer and let you teach yourselves or just be guided by their own curiosity." And what they did is they left that there, and then they gave tests to those kids that were in the slums, not going, and their English and math scores were comparable to the kids who were in schools and classes. So they were teaching themselves because out of necessity, because they want to use this computer. And in order to use the computer, they have to learn all these things that otherwise they would not have known. And the lesson there was the kids can teach themselves really well if you allow them the space. And what they learned is that encouragement was required. So they called a granny network. So grannies from around the world are being spotted into India, and the granny just hears what they learn and says, "Good job. Love what you're doing." And then that encouragement just keeps these kids going. Yeah. And that was a fascinating thing, because it kind of, in a way, I've worked on this project for I think 5 years now. It's called Start Soul. And all you do is you ask kids, they call it a big question that's based on the fluidity of what's going on in that moment. So a question you would ask the kids is, what's the difference between fluidity and structure? And then leave them to spend the next hour researching it and then sharing what it is they come up with. But it would be inspiring their brains to begin to think in ways that they would otherwise be didactically taught. Like, hey, structure is this. And so in a way, it's encouraging them to think. That's just something.
I would actually take it a step further.
Okay.
Of course you would.
Obviously.
So I'm bringing in, this is the school. This is a portable school. It's just 2 sticks. Okay. So on one stick we have, let me see, it's all opposite here. So what's it's reversed when I look at. So this is the solidity part. This is where the x equals the x. So this is where the thing is what it is.
Yes.
You are you, the computer is the computer, the world is the world, the universe is the universe. And this one is fluidity, where x doesn't equal x. This is the change aspect. And so I would say to the kids, any experience you have, okay, will always be a mixture of these two. Any experience you have, any experience can be reduced to a mixture of these two. So, and what you need to figure out is, how do you want to navigate the space in between those two event horizons, basically. It's always a mixture, so you can't pass either of them. And so I would put out these on the floor, and I would explain it to them until they understood, and then I would set them free. But I would want them to understand that there is an equation that's real. And this is what we are operating within, so that we have a system, a language, a linguistic approach that we can talk to each other about reality as this mixture of fluidity and solidity. So I would actually...
So as I hear you speak, I hear you addressing several things all at once. I must admit, I have to go into a meditative state to actually feel into where it's connecting to my experience. So it's not like I'm listening to you at face value.
Great.
And what I'm taking is that I've often said that, like, if I look at an object, then I can reduce the object down to its base elements and then see that basically I've created that object, going back to what I said earlier in the show. So in some ways, it's almost like I almost hear in your x equals x, x does not equal x, I hear strangely Buddhism. Like, that's what I hear because in some weird way, I see the existence of the thing is created through the projection of the reality that thing exists. So if I say it only exists in my head, then I'm already acknowledging that thing doesn't exist except for what I've projected in my head to exist.
But the problem is,
yes,
it
please.
does exist. This is the problem. You really...
But you could say it exists apparently. That's what I would say, right? Or no?
Actually, that's the difficulty about the whole concept is that you touch yourself.
I'm so happy you don't get it. Like his face when you said Buddhism.
I love it. I almost felt as bad as when I said Karl Popper in my message to you, and then you were like, "Oh no, Andy, you're oversimplifying the, or you're, oh yeah."
No, but it's because it's a discussion I haven't really had in depth. It's the whole discussion about the now.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is, as I understand it, a very important part of at least some Buddhist tradition. Okay. Being in the now. Okay. So the problem is that the equation of change experience doesn't allow for a now. So it's like, and it's a debate. It's most likely because I don't understand Buddhism. But on the surface, it seems that there's a contradiction between my basic idea and the basic idea of Buddhism. But this may not be the truth.
Well, let me be honest with you. I don't understand Buddhism either. So we both agree on that. I was taking a base idea I had of Buddhism and applying it, but without really enough knowledge to really do that responsibly. There's one thing I'd like to share about you that I love. And I really want to celebrate you for one moment, is that you're one of the few people I've seen who's given so much thought to things, but holds it lightly. So when we talk, there's often what I've experienced in my life is when someone has given so much thought to a topic, it's usually exhausting to speak with them because they're so rigid in their idea. It's always, you have to understand what I understand so that you learn whatever it is I have to teach you. Yeah. Like that's the way I experience people that have done as much research as you've done. And what I experience with you is this fluid joy of the exploration. And then we get to meet wherever we meet, and it doesn't really matter because we're both figuring it out as we go. Exactly. And that's something that I find really beautiful in you. And I just want to cherish that while we're with you. Because it's a special quality, actually. Yeah. I was not excited to go into this show when I looked at your 8 books. I'm like, and I looked at Bambos, and Bambos said to me,
he said to me, "You're not going to enjoy the show."
I said, "You're not going to enjoy the show." And you know what Bambos said to me? Bambos said to me, he said, "I looked at his website before we started. I have no clue what this guy does." Oh, man. So I just wanted to celebrate you for that. It's really a great pleasure to be with you.
And I also want to add, I'm also really enjoying you. And at the same time, we're going to finish this show in 30 minutes. I'm going to go home what did we talk about?
I have to meditate when I listen to you, because what you're asking me to do is not just understand you. You're asking me to go back to an experience in myself, which is why I brought it to more of a meditation. Mm-hmm. Like I have to allow myself to see through my own indoctrination of how things exist and how I've come to see reality. So you're asking a lot of the individual, like I mentioned earlier. Yeah. And therefore it's beautiful to listen to you. And I realized, wow, I need to go into some almost where my brain sort of bifurcates and I can't allow a reality to set in that I get comfortable with. So that's really what you're asking. You're asking a lot of the individual.
Yeah. I am.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
But without any spiritual mumbo jumbo. No. You're just saying it's a mathematical equation, guys. If you understand the math, then why are you making it so complicated?
And then he laughs.
Yeah.
But I think the fun part, is that it's an equation, but it actually only works if it's on the floor and the people are inside the equation. So this is the difference. This is the method. Wow. This is it's a mathematics that you actually have to be inside the equation.
Oh wow! Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Tell me what would be an exercise you might run which helps people experience the thing you're talking about.
So this is where I'm not so strong, but basically it would be you create the probability field. Okay. And you insist that it's an infinite number of potential positions that all are different mixtures of fluidity and solidity. Mm-hmm. And so basically you can start in the end where it's most solid, close to this is in this end, close to this event horizon. And you can feel and experience, how you've been brought up by words and ideas and assumptions that really promote gravity and cause and effect. And it's like if you want to change something, you really have to push and carry and lift, and everything is heavy, and it's like the world is so it's extremely dense. Okay. And this is, you are taught from moment one, this is how it is, okay? Yeah. And then you just slowly start to say, okay, let's try to take one tiny, tiny step, towards other parts of the equation where the mixture is different, where there is less density. It doesn't make it wrong to be close to the home of the body, because basically that is the home of the body. Is very close to, there's so much solidity, and a little bit of that's the home of the body. So we need to be there, but we should still experiment what happens. So you asked me in the beginning, did you take drugs? Okay, yes, I did take drugs. So say, when you're dreaming, when you do drugs, when you are in love, okay, when you're in love, I imagine that you are further, the mixture is different. There's more fluidity and less solidity. The body doesn't take such a big toll on your experience. So I would ask people maybe to remember other states of minds, and we would physically move around in the equation and discover reality as this field of probabilities defined by these two event horizons, fluidity and solidity.
It feels like the X doesn't equal X, that it's a space of really surrendering, like more in the body, like more feeling, but not even being able to put words to it. And the X equals X is more like believing what you're feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like if you have. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, please.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay. No, it's like if you imagine it's a glass, and you can mix, fluidity and solidity. So what you're saying is the X equal X is like it's full of solidity, and there's only a little tiny bit of fluidity there, But there's always a mix, okay? It can't be just one thing. It has to be a mix. Yeah. And in the other end, there's just a little bit of solidity, and there's a lot of fluidity, okay? So the experiences are completely different, okay?
It's like they're talking about you and me.
Yeah, it's talking a bit about our dynamic. Because I live with a lot of fluidity. The solidity is sort of like, wow, what are these people looking at? And why are they thinking that's real? I have, what, when you speak like this, there's a topic or things that obviously come up. But one of the things that comes up for me is really ingrained beliefs that are so ingrained that people don't even understand that they're beliefs. Like the word, does your life have purpose? Are you living your true purpose? Have you found your life's purpose? Like all of the purpose stuff. So I've noticed that has become so ingrained, especially in coaches and trainers trying to sell things to other people, that people often, when they're living, they might be totally at peace. But then I say, are you living your true purpose? And then by putting that solidity right in their face, like all of a sudden they start to question their own happiness. Like, oh my God, I haven't found my true calling yet. And then all of a sudden they're stuck because now the thing that they were totally at peace before, someone entered something in the solidity that said, oh, are you living your true purpose or calling? And if you're not, then you will never be happy. And now all of a sudden they're pulled into this idea that, oh my God, I'm not happy because I haven't found. And then they'll spend 10 years paying people and then always saying, yes, but I have never found my true calling. And I'm always laughing, thinking to myself, wow, isn't it funny? Because before that idea came in that you were supposed to have a calling, you were really happy. But as soon as the solidity, the density of the thing came in, you got stuck in an idea, and that idea then defined your frustration. So and I guess moving to the fluidity, I see then, like all words in the fluid space, my mind just jingles with, there's a word that apparently exists that creates something in me. And now I'm like, wow, isn't that fascinating? As opposed to, now what do I have to do with it? Right? Because the doing with it is where it gets dense. And this is weird. Isn't that weird? When we use a certain word, it creates a certain experience. And there's no attachment and then creation of that. What's going on, Thomas?
Like,
slow down.
I would call that a straight face.
Let's slow down. We gotta dig into the brain now. I'm loving this.
Like,
no, don't ask. Let God speak.
What'd you call him?
I said God. Let God speak. He's got something going on. We need space for this.
I'm actually not sure I understood what you just said. Okay, but
okay, that's good.
But responding anyway. Okay,
perfect.
So the problem when I explain the scale and you ask me for an exercise, okay?
Yeah.
Of course, I have to, in a way, simplify it a little bit just to make it comprehensible, and that's also what you want me to do. Okay, that's what you're asking me. You're saying, Thomas, we may not understand, but please, give us some tools so that we can, get a grasp of what you're doing or what you're trying to say. But the problem is that this idea about fluidity and solidity and who we are, it's, of course, we have a shared universe, okay? And to some degree, this defines us as solid in this sense, okay? We share this universe. And the universe is a mirror of us as bodies trying to survive in the world, and creating a world where the body can be, okay? But if you take a person, for instance, like let's say a shaman, okay, I'm just improvising now. But you take a shaman, okay, this guy, from my point of view, he will appear as someone who has access to fluidity, okay? But to him, okay, this is a space of solidity, okay?
Yeah.
The world. So, and this is where it becomes a probability field, and this is where the whole thing becomes slightly more complex than we're used to, working with it, because to him it's solid. His world is actually solid, but to me it's not solid. So the question is, how can I discover the position of the other? Because I can't just take my ideas for granted in a way. Maybe this was a little bit what you were saying before. So the thing is that when we communicate with each other, we often have experiences, okay? We sense a little bit of resistance, or there's certain, it's very difficult sometimes to pinpoint exactly what's happening when we are talking to each other and when we are around each other. But I think one of the keys to understanding this probability field is actually to become aware of the very, very, very small fluctuations in the properties of the qualities of our communication. And this is actually how we find each other in this infinite, because the probability field is infinite. You are so potentially so far away. So it's actually when we communicate that these tiny, tiny, tiny little fluctuations in the qualities of our communication actually it's like a compass, it's like a plotter or something. It helps us find each other. So you could say, in a weird way, you could say that the conflicts and the trouble and all that's not right in the way we communicate is actually how we find each other.
Yeah. But the challenge, but by the way, just one step to there. Let me
come on, bring it on.
But there's one challenge in it, and this goes to another, and this might be way off. Like I'm thinking, wow, is that if as soon as identity gets introduced, then everything that you're saying has to be conflicted with one's inability to see themselves and taking themselves seriously in the interaction. So now I'm not with you in the discussion. I'm with the former idea of myself. I'm arguing with you from an idea of myself instead of being with you. So right now, I can tell how we interact. We're letting go of a lot of, like when you say, I'm letting you inform my way of seeing the world. So I'm not thinking, wow, I'm right. I'm saying, I'm presenting you, this is how I see things. And as you present back to me, I'm like, oh shit, maybe I'm missing a nuance here that I could actually get from Thomas that could help me. Now, and when you say, Andy, I have no idea what you said, but let me address it anyways. Basically, all we're doing is we have an intention to meet. And that intention is something bigger than two people that both have an identity that are trying to win an argument. And I think that I don't know how you address that. That's the question.
That's becoming alive, basically. The fact that you and I are communicating. Remember, we are fluctuating. We are not present. It's a probability field. So the magic and the wonder is the fact that we are actually, actually manifesting.
But Thomas, you're full of shit. Everything you say is bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell you're saying. I think you're making this shit up. So what happens? What happens? He's like me. I hate this. But what happens? What happens in the probability field when that's the energy you're meeting?
This is what I will just, I will just backtrack.
Okay. Yeah. As I would. I mean, I guess I'm asking myself actually. I love being with you because it's true. I mean, but the funny thing is, I guess where you specialize in your field. My field is what are the preconditions for us to interact in a way where it's meaningful, where it makes sense. So I reduce it very practical, and you're dealing with it like on a meta level where you've turned it into a mathematical equation. So I find it quite beautiful, obviously.
I was thinking today, why are there no more prophets in the world? Like, what happened? We stopped producing prophets, and I feel like I'm sitting in front of one.
Well,
ask his ex-wife.
or maybe the consultant that phones me from the local job center.
What I'd like to see?
Wanting to work with my strategies for finding work. I think they would most likely not agree with you. But anyway, so
what I'd like to see is on your tombstone. I would like to see like two big columns. One is X equals X, X does not equal X, like on either side, like two columns next to on either side. Yes.
It's a school.
And you're in the middle.
No, but the idea was actually just to create this really scalable school. You could anybody could create it. You need a piece of paper, and then you create the field, and then you start working within the field. So it should be for anyone, no privilege wherever you come from. You don't even have to be able to read and write. Okay, to access your fundamental genius as someone who's capable of, working with fluidity as if solid.
Yeah. But so it's conscious. It's conscious that it's fluidity. That's the point.
So maybe.
Well, okay. I love that. That's how fluid you are. So Bolalong, who almost always has 20 questions, today writes, "Today I'm swimming in the deep." I love that. So Bolalong, I'm happy that we tested you today because we don't want you just to, he puts us on in the background daily. And today I think he's going to have to listen and say, what is it that they were talking about for that hour? Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I do. I have when I'm with you discussing, I feel like I mentioned earlier, I have to go to meditative state to feel into where you're saying and how I allow my brain has to reconfigure to the reality you're asking me to hold. And I really have to that's what I mentioned earlier. It's not easy, especially if you've been indoctrinated that X equals X and everything is reality and everything is dense. And you're asking me to let go of that in order to see what's in the fluid world. That's a lot to ask of an individual who's been, and you said, if we started at an earlier age, and I mean, I think it's beautiful because in a weird way, like getting back to the statement you made earlier, you said, Andy, imagine if we started with quantum physics and that was what our baseline was for where we start to educate people as opposed to where it was Newton, right? So if we jumped forward in time and said, now it's basically, we're basing everything on a non-fluid world. And now we're setting you out in the world and trying to figure it out, right? It's it's another way of experience in the world for sure.
Thomas, what's your purpose?
Well,
don't answer that question.
That's a trick question, Thomas.
It's a trick question.
Thank you for being with us. It was really a beautiful hour. It shot by. We're already over time. Even.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thank you. And now I understand why Peter said we had to meet because he realized that we would be like we'd be like two polarities in the world that are connected, like the plus and minus that are connecting around the same core values. Yeah. Send you a lot of love.
Thank you.
Take care of the kids and the ex-wife. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
What a sweet man. Wow. That was beautiful. Yeah. How was it for you? Not necessarily the show, but you came in with a lot of energy, and we had this going on. So how was the whole experience for you after you shared, and then we went and had the show afterwards?
Just the fact that I can share, it means that I can be very present, right?
Yeah. But I mean, you were able to feel present and stay present and feel. I mean, I felt that way. I just thought I'd check in because
Definitely.
Because we start someplace and then we take a journey, and it's like I see you there, and yeah. Are you in a way, how would you say, pleasantly surprised with how you feel? Like, how do you feel now?
I would say that I've been playing with my brain a little bit. So when I don't hold on to things, what are the things I can do to not hold on to them? And normally it's by expressing. And as soon as I've spoken them, I don't feel like that anymore.
Yeah.
It's actually the holding on to it and not revealing it is when I take it seriously.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So would you say you go back to the house feeling like lighter?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Because you came, we didn't even discuss why it was so heavy for you before you came here.
Living a lot in the X equals X.
Got it. Beautiful. Yeah. X equals X. It's a dense world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, that's it for this show. I feel.
Should we just play the tune?
No. Or we can. I feel grateful. This was really, I really enjoyed. I have to say, I just enjoyed being with him. What a beautiful energy.
Yeah, the thing that you really pointed out, that he can laugh and not hold on to things so firmly, even though it feels like he sees it and he's inviting you into his world, and it's more an invitation.
Yeah, and if I tried to summarize and I was off, it was like, that's fine. You know what I mean? There's no like, no, Andy, you don't get it. We got to explain this to you. There was something really beautiful in that energy field, let's say. Yeah. So that's it for today.
And we're going to see you guys tomorrow on another episode of this.
Oh my God. Yeah, for you telling me you left it all. Leave it on the field, Bambos.
That's really me joking. Really joking. Good. We're going to see you guys tomorrow on another episode of...
Now I think you're bullshitting as well. I think somewhere in the middle would have worked, but we'll do it regardless on...
A wonderful
Chaos.